in 1997. I was in my XS Chevy, y'all, on I-80, doing 111. Parking on my faulty phone, fresh new fit, Maurice Malone. Burning tongue, feeling hella numb. Stupid doodle dumb off 151.
What's up, girl?
Hey, Kay, how's it going?
It's good. How you?
Oh, man, I'm doing good. I cannot complain.
Hey, I heard that. Why complain, huh?
For what? Just keep hustling.
You know?
It took a hell of a mindset to stay with the hustle. So, yeah, let's start there.
Oh, okay. Well, shoot, my journey back in the day, started when I was playing music, in a band.
Okay.
And it was just flowing to why the studio situation started. I remember recording at the studio in Richmond called Starlight, where everybody used to record down there. Tony, Sheila E., Radiance, and all those Bay Area groups at that time,
Uh-huh.
And I always remember, doing gigs and trying to save enough money to afford the graveyard shift from 11 to 7 in the morning at $75 an hour.
Yeah.
I'm saying, if I ever did this and get some money, I'm saying, because it don't cost that much at the time,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to help, do whatever I can do. I, got lucky and I got signed to Macana Records from L.A., who at the time had Tony signed to them. They did some early NWA stuff, earlier World Class Wrecking Crew, and made a little bit of money with a single I had in the Bay Area. It's a pretty hot song in the Bay Area called It Ain't Over Till It's Over.
Uh-huh.
My group was called KAJAMMIN. So I made enough money and I invested in some studio equipment.
Okay.
Started my studio in my mom's garage back in 89, 88, 89. And, I started, recording people, $8 an hour.
Wow, $8 an hour.
Yep, man, I just started getting, and one of my very first clients back in the day who wanted to do music at that time, too, was the one and only Master P.
Oh, my goodness. And it started from $8 an hour in your mom's garage.
In my mom's garage, yeah. Somebody told Master P, he wasn't my first client, but I had a couple of little Bay Area guys with my first client, because I was doing R&B. I was really good at R&B. I came from the band era, playing my own stuff, so I played all instruments,
What did you play in the band?
I was a bass player.
Oh, man, you was holding it down.
Bass player, lead singer.
Oh, man, holding it down double.
Oh, yeah, hold it down double. We were doing, at that time, you had to know how to play, because, we were doing shows at the Lucky Lions, and at that time, you had KDIA and K-Soul used to put on each little weekend and summer things where they used to have a couple of semi-flatbed trucks, and we used to do outside concerts. So that's how I started my music career early on.
Man, and then you linked up with P, and what pieces of equipment did you start out with? Because that was a minute ago. We was on General MIDI back then.
Oh, yeah, shoot. This was, when I was starting, it was, General MIDI, but it was mainly a live situation. I had a drum machine called the Drumulator.
Okay.
It's the baby of the SP1200. SP12 is called a Drumulator.
Yeah.
And what had happened, from doing the music and getting a little record deal at the time, I got $2,500 to work with, right? So one of my friends was in the Coast Guard.
Okay.
And so he was telling me, hey man, I get this equipment half price from Japan.
Yeah.
This stuff all that Tascam stuff came from Japan.
Yeah.
For like $2,000, $2,100, I ended up getting a 4-track reel-to-reel. I got a mixer, like a 12-channel mixer, and a 2-track mix-down deck. Okay. And that's how I started my studio, with those 3 pieces of equipment.
And by you really being able to play, you was able to put your parts down and really lay it out versus having to quantize it, needing all of that type of stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't none of that at the time. It wasn't no, actually during that time, drum machines was just coming out. Like, they had them, but people wasn't using them. You had to record your own stuff. I had a live drum set up. One of the rock groups that I recorded left their drums there, and I ended up using those and taught myself how to play drums. And by the time I met up with the rappers, because rap was just coming on.
Yeah.
Just another little story before that really happened was I was at an award banquet because, like I said, my group KAJAMMIN was pretty known in the Bay Area. It's just like 40's being known right now. You know what I mean? It's like we were really known, our group, right, in the Bay Area. And I remember we were at a award show. We were being honored with Confunction at the time.
Shout out to my cousin Cedric Martin.
Oh, yeah, okay. I remember they had some entertainment before they were honoring everybody, and this guy came out. He was dancing, right? He was dancing and rapping. You know, I'm looking at this guy saying, it was new to me. You know, I never seen nothing like this before. I said, oh, man, this ain't going nowhere. And it happened to be MC Hammer.
Well, Lord.
And I was mistaken because, you know how it is when if something is new, you figure, oh, that ain't doing that, you know, because we were doing something else at the time. Right. But Hammer was ahead of his time. And I remember like it was yesterday, he had on a black tuxedo with a red cummerbund and a red bow tie. And this brother was dancing. He had a bunch of people with him, but, he was doing his thing. Wow. But I started recording a bunch of cats, and I started getting very, very known. And at that time, I started getting, too big for my mom's garage. You know, she was tired of people coming up, so I took a shot at it, and I moved to my first location on Barrett Street. And all the early cats that might read this article, they're going to know what I'm talking about because they remember this place, you know. That's when I met Skinny 40. 40 was about 180 pounds, right? He was Skinny 40. But before I met 40, 40 heard of me because I worked with Into Deep first. Okay. And they found me because they heard about my studio, and they knew this guy had a studio that was very reasonable in price, and he got a real clean sound. I always been a stickler. My vocals had to be the cleanest. Right. Because of the era I came from, my music had to be tight and clean, you know. Right. I've learned that way all along, big and strong and tight. So they were the first, other than Master P's, first rappers that really was doing something at the time. And it just so happened they was the first group I worked with that got a record deal and got a gold record. Wow. In Too Deep. And then from them I met E40. And he came to me and said, yeah, man, I got a new different, my style is really different, man. And I listened to it. It was kind of, that 40 rap back in the day that he did, like offbeat type of rap.
Mr. Flamboyant?
All that old stuff back then. But they had their own producers, but they just wanted somebody to help them get a more professional sound at a small price at the time because they didn't have any money, you know. And Studio Tone was their producer, which I want to say a shout out to Studio Tone, which is still one of my top 5 producers of all time. You know, he was well ahead of the game at the time, you know. Yeah, and a great mentor too. Oh yeah, Studio Tone. So I really, give props to Studio Tone. That's my guy. But then I met him, and then I started recording everybody else in the Bay Area. I mean, I just got so busy. I was just producing everybody. Unfortunately, I remember one day this one rapper called me wanting to get in my studio. I just did not have no time for him at all. And it was Tupac. That studio, it was an 8-track studio. What? At that time, I went from 4 tracks to 8 tracks. This is, again, still 4 Pro Tools and all that stuff. We was doing reel to reel. I had every chance I got, I reinvested my money, and I went up to a bigger board, a bigger machine, and I got 8-track reel to reel. Everybody who's been up there know what I'm talking about. If they read this article, they know what I had. And my studio had such a great sound that the label that Into Deep was signed with was called Profile Records, if you know who that is. Yeah. They sent Run DMC down to my studio. What? People don't know Run DMC came to the Bay Area for about a week, and we worked with them with Into Deep's Johnny Z producing. And so that's where that track was made at? Oh, it was made there, yeah. And, they were cool. Jam Master Jay, God rest his soul, he was the hardest one to please. He didn't really give us a shot because we from Bay Area. And, I know Corey Robbins, who's the owner of Profile. He asked them to come. They came, But Ron and Joe, they was really, to see these two guys work together and rap, it was like a work of art, man. It was like 2 guys, but it was one guy. Yeah. How they interact with each other on that microphone, you know what I mean? And I started recording Mac Dre, and Mac Dre came to me and said, I am working on the compilation. I need you to be involved with that. I did that. Then after that, that was pretty good. Then he asked me, he said, look, I want to do this record, but I only want 2 people to produce it. I want you and Funk Daddy from Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
So me and Funk Daddy did this album with Stupid Doodle Dumb. You know?
Wow.
Yeah, me and Funk Daddy. I had, you know, Stupid Doodle Dumb. I had a lot of songs on that album, but Stupid Doodle Dumb was my favorite. And I produced that track with him and Mac Mall doing the hook, and there was some other songs on there that was cool, but that's one of my favorite records of all time, is Stupid Doodle Dumb.
That's what's up. And what do you think about the artist promotions? Like, what should they really be doing to get their stuff out there? It's so many people. The game is just saturated with rappers.
I know, but see, the mistake that these rappers are making, they're not branding their name. When I say branding, they need to find a name or say like they use a name. Mm-hmm. Use the same name every time, or you brand their company name. So people can always see that name and associate themselves with a symbol or a name, like No Limit did, or even Stick With It did. You know what I'm saying? Then another thing, you have to treat this music business like a business. When you go to have meetings with people, you can't go smelling like no weed.
Say that.
You know what I'm saying? You really can't.
That's a flag to get taken advantage of. They know where you at already, even if that's what you do and that's what they do.
Exactly. I'm just saying from my personal experience, you know, when I used to go down and talk to them white folks and black folks, not just white folks, black folks, I used to leave. They leave with a check for $300,000. You know what I'm saying? Nothing, because I handled it like a business. I had all my I's dotted and my T's crossed. You know, whenever I sent something, I sent it out professional.
Right.
You know, label on it, you know, the correct address, typed letter, you know, everything. This is another thing. But as far as an artist, you got to treat it like a business when you send your stuff out. When you meet somebody, you got to hand them a business card. You know, right. You're not just going to say, oh, give me your number on the phone. No, you show them that you really got you're trying to run a business.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Believe it or not, labels are still signing acts. They have to. They got money still coming in. They have to sign. They're not signing 60 acts like they used to. They're signing 10 a year,
right.
20 a year. But even the label that I'm dealing with, EMI Capital, they're still signing acts. You probably never heard of them because they're not from this area.
Right.
But they still signing acts. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it can still be done. I talked to them recently. They looking for acts.
And what about this, you know, people feel like they don't want to pay for anything. Or, you know, because...
you know what? I understand that sometimes, mm-hmm. You know, that people don't have the money. Let me hook you on some game. There's a site called, because I used it before for my kids program, and I raised some money. There's a site called GoFundMe.
Uh-huh.
And if people want to be real business, they can make a website, and they got people that like their music. They can make this site up and have their friends and family go to this site and donate money to them and go straight to their bank account. So they can say, hey, if you guys really like what we're doing, we want to do an album. If you guys can donate $5, $10 and go to this site and you donate it and money goes straight to us, and then they can raise money. It happens.
You know, I done heard you bring up trees a few times. This is a problem.
You know what I'm saying? Back then, when we were recording, you got to understand, even with No Limit, mm-hmm. Working with No Limit didn't allow no smoking in the studio, even after they got Snoop Dogg signed there.
Wow.
Snoop had to go outside in the car and smoke like everybody else. You know, if you wanted to go and smoke in the car, you had to go, because TV used to make everybody punch the clock. That's how you got your money, you know.
What?
You better know he had a time clock. I remember
that.
every time like you finish your record, you know, he gave you money, you know, for coming to the studio, working on yourself. You punched the clock. This man was a businessman. You punched the clock. When you leave, you punch the clock. So, like, I remember Fiend. Fiend was saying, man, I can't wait till I finish my album. I got to stay here and stay boom, boom, boom. Somebody said, Fiend, want to go out and smoke? Nah, man, I'm finishing this verse, man. I want her to finish. So, as soon as he finished his record, he got a check for $250,000. Every time somebody finished, No Limit was making $2 to $3 million a month. In 98, he was getting that a month. I seen a check.
Now, as far as hanging on to money, 'cause, you know, 98, that's been a little bit of time, but you've maintained. And a lot of people burn through money. They, you know, they might have had that Benz, that Spider, or whatever, and they might have had more financially than what you had. But in the end of the game, you've been able to maintain home, car, studio.
Yeah, I would say I'm a type of person. People who know me, they know K-Lou is not into nothing fancy. You know what I mean? Only thing I'm into fancy is my recording studio.
All right.
You know, for my recording board, I paid $130,000 for it. Cash money. You know, I'm not into jewelry. You know, I have, you know, I got a vehicle. I got a 97 Land Cruiser that I have been having since I paid cash for that back in the day. Yeah, that's still riding good, you know. I got other cars at home. My wife drives a Benz, but that's what I want her to be in, something safe like that. Right. But me personally, I don't believe in spending my money like that because I'm not into that kind of stuff. It's okay if you are, but like you said, I've seen people, when they get their little money, it's gone. Right. It really is gone because they don't know how to spend it. I bought me a house. I can say one thing that really I blew some money on.
What did you blow it on?
I had already had my house for 2 days, and I started getting this no-limit money, right? So I was wanting to do some work in my backyard at my house. I wanted to go get some dirt, you know, and put it in the backyard. I said, God, I'm going to get this dirt. I went to GMC and just wrote a check for a truck just to go get some dirt from Home Depot. Because I had it, you know what I mean? It wasn't nothing. Even though it was 10 grand, I just wrote it like it wasn't nothing. I could have just had them deliver it for $50.
Right.
But I wasn't thinking like that. I just go get it myself. And I went and got the truck, and I went to Home Depot and got the dirt. Everybody who knows me know about my little silver truck. I used to drive that thing all the time. I'm a low-key guy. I'm not really flashy, you know. But let me tell you something. I do spend my money when it comes to taking a nice family vacation. I'll spend 15 grand in a minute to go on a vacation with my family, you know. So that's the kind of stuff I really spend my money on, relaxation with the family or stuff like that, you know.
What helped you keep focused in a family direction? Because that's part of your success too.
Oh, that's a part of, one of the main reasons of my success is my family. I keep them separated. When I leave the studio, you can't catch me on the weekend. That's family time.
That's what's up. Hey, K, I had a wonderful time talking to you this morning. You got anything else you want to get out?
No, I think I said it all. You know, just handle this music business like a business, and then you'll see. And you know, you put more into it, you're gonna get more out of it. That's what I want to preach because I've seen it happen. The artists these days aren't doing what the artists did back in the day. They're not working at it. They're just putting that record out, putting that record together, and just putting it out. And then when it don't sell, they don't know what to do, and then they either quit or they go back to another record. That ain't the way to do it. You got to work it. You got to find ways to get at the people, or you got to work on your brand.
Work on your brand.
Yep, branding yourself. Work on that brand. If they want me to ask me anything, and maybe I can help them. They got any questions about the music business, I don't mind answering questions. They can hit me on Facebook.
They gonna be doing that, man. I really appreciate you taking the time out, and I'm gonna link up with you.
Hey, no problem. Anytime.
Okay, bruh.
All right, you take it easy.
All right.